Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boys from For Those With Good Taste. I'm Matt. He's Lenny. And thanks for joining us for today's show.
Psst.
What's up with you?
Dude, just real quick, let me ask you a question before we get into this.
Yeah, what's that?
Just bear with us. Do you have any interest in taking a trip with me?
What do you mean, like a journey?
Not quite. I had something in mind.
Like a voyage?
No, man, this isn't the Dawn Shredder.
You mean like an adventure, like Bilbo?
Not wearing any rings, so it can't be that.
You thinking like an excursion?
I have not seen that Chris Hemsworth movie yet.
So
Real hunk, that guy, though.
You're not thinking Ford trucks?
Nope.
Well, what are you thinking?
Damn, you know what? It's just on the tip of your tongue. It's right there. Like I can reach out and grab it.
Like you don't mean like an exploration,
dude.
Are
you in my fucking brain right now?
You better stop right now.
That's what exploration.
You're not thinking it.
I'm thinking it.
You're thinking
fucking
X-Men X-Ploration? So, hey, Lenny, would you say that X-Men was probably one of your favorite shows growing up?
Personally, for me, it's up there. It's definitely up there. It's like, I think my ranking might be different for most. I think if most people asked you that question, Matt, they'd say back to you, is the sky blue?
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Is grass green? Does a bear shit in the woods?
I thought that was the direction you were going to go, and I was kind of nervous for you.
Is that the saying?
I think it might be.
Okay, well,
I think it's if a bear shits in the woods, does anyone clean it up? I think that's the question.
Yeah. If you've noticed in those commercials, though, toilet paper.
Charmin toilet paper.
Always there.
Always there.
Littering, though, that fucking bear. Give back to your community, buddy. So, to answer your question, short version, I love the show. It was not like... number one for me was always Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Batman probably right after that.
Sure.
And then it came in X-Men. Full on for me.
Yeah, I think X-Men had some great characters, and I think that's what I kind of remember more so are the characters. I remember some important storylines, things like that, but, you know, I feel like X-Men back then isn't what we kind of know Marvel to be now. You know, when we think about
Big
Marvel
difference.
now, it's Avengers, right? It's Captain America, Iron Man.
It's larger than fucking life.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
It is life.
It changed the game for cinema.
Like, every movie is going to break a box office record. Like, every movie at this point, it's not even just a question if the quality is going to be good. It's just, can it outdo the last one?
Yeah, we're just waiting for records to be broken. It's like, hey, Black Panther did this, but 6 months later, Avengers does this. And it's a constant battle.
Yeah, and a lot of this, I mean, what we know of Marvel is a lot different than what we're going to be getting into as these episodes continue. But just thinking about, like, from the year 2000 on, for what, like, Marvel is to movies especially, but TV too. You have things like Punisher, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, so on and so forth, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., all those. So you have a lot of TV, but primarily movies, right? But this starts in, like, the year 2000. And a lot of it is on the back of, funny enough, like, the X-Men movies and Spider-Man, right? Or
it got its start. Like, we what we think of as Marvel now is vastly different than it was, and how it got its start started with X-Men. And believe it or not, a lot of the kid shows that we came to know and love as kids end up kind of starting from X-Men. I mean, you mentioned Batman, the animated series, and that all kind of starts in one place.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And the movies for me, if we could just talk about those for a moment, like the X-Men movies have kind of their own lore at this point in their own right? It's kind of crazy. They're all a mixed bag. The first two are, for lack of a better term, maybe iconic. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, X1 and X2, I think, are highly regarded by a lot of people as, like, a really, really strong starting point to what we know superhero movies to kind of be now. It
was definitely the proponent, and then the cast that they had starting those movies.
Actors. Like, everybody.
You were able to identify with anyone.
From there, yeah.
And it kind of propelled Hugh Jackman to this iconic status. When you use that word, you know, I remember him being in Swordfish, but before X-Men, I really don't think too much about Hugh Jackman when it comes to movies.
No, he's definitely one of those guys that has become the role. Funny, and I mean, like, it's kind of like Ryan Reynolds, and it's funny how close they both are.
Right, yeah.
Because
great relationship between those two guys.
They're essentially their characters.
Yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds, far before he was ever Deadpool,
he was signed to be
he was this
Wade
guy.
Wilson.
Like, that's his ambiance. His being is Wade Wilson, right? But like, I don't think people really realize with Hugh Jackman, and I wish I had looked this up before we did it, because I'd be interested to see what the reception was when he got named. Because like anything, there's always
skepticism.
We're talking about Robert Pattinson as Batman, and it's very similar, I'm sure, to what he went through, where somebody questioned it. But now, looking back on it, it's really hard for them to put another person in that role. That's the major conversation in today's Marvel.
I feel like that's the biggest issue that they face now.
Yeah,
is wondering
X-Men
which
are
direction.
now. What happens, right? So then you get into like the X3, which is a major downward step.
I think so.
And it stopped the franchise for quite some time. But then Marvel gets reinvigorated, and it just takes off. The Marvel universe, the cinematic universe, begins in 2008, and since then you've gotten multiple X-Men like spin-offs from there, tie-ins and spin-offs, to also a mixed bag. And so to speak, it seems like the X-Men's franchise in general,
and they've had success here and there. There are some highlights to it, but overall, when Marvel kind of started coming up on the rise, X-Men, for whatever reason, kind of went in a couple of different directions.
Yeah, it seems like the X-Men MO for most of their time being a property that's been on film and TV, and this is a good opportunity for us to get into maybe a little bit of the history, because where this starts is probably the year 2000 for me and you, and it's a trip through like the movie universe, what we were just talking about. But this all originates in the 90s and even before the
90s,
with a lot of these properties, and it's kind of a crazy start.
Yeah, so let's start there, right? Let's we've dived really deep into the history of the story so that we can understand somewhat of a different perspective and a different lens as we go through these shows. It's
a little hard at like 5 to understand the like gravitas that goes with like this. TV shows, and like it's like not just as simple as being put on TV. It's like there's just this whole
so many things go into it
to get done, and so it's like we've gotten a really interesting perspective now.
Well, it's amazing how close we got to not having this show, right? So it all starts 1991, 1992. A woman who changed the game as far as television, but we won't jump too much into what she did later. But Margaret Loesch, she gets hired as the head of Fox Kids.
Can I tell you something?
She had some history in Marvel previously.
Margaret Loesch. If I could go back to like 1986. Yeah. If I could go back to 86 and like, tongue kiss a woman. Consensually. She's top of my list.
She's topping your list? I mean,
she's up there. She might have a body to match. I don't know.
It's the personality that does it for me, because this woman
tenacious
had all of the charisma to take something that she truly believed in. So she came from the production team at Marvel. She comes over to Fox Kids Network.
Are you aware of how she comes over?
I don't know too much of the backstory. I know that she had her hand in some of the previous shows.
She's working for Marvel, and Marvel gets sold. The property of Marvel gets sold, and she ends up leaving the company. But she had worked with them in the 80s, when they were making the show Pride of the X-Men. She was working for Marvel at that time. So she knows the property well. She knows Stan Lee well. She knows all of that well.
She knew the content.
The property gets sold. So she is now in, because the Marvel TV, it started actually with
Pride of the X-Men.
So not even just that. So there was more than just that was on TV in the 80s. You also had, it was Spider-Man and Friends.
Okay. And
you also had The Incredible Hulk. So there was like a small little basis of TV that Marvel had going on. And when they get sold to this other company. And that next company basically decides, I want to make more kid-oriented TV. Like young
children
kids, like adolescent kids. So you get like, I think it was like Kids Looney Tunes is one of them that like launches at that time.
Okay.
And it's dumbed down entertainment, and it's just not made for that age any longer. Right?
Animaniacs. Yeah. Right. That comes to mind, and that actually works in tandem with what X-Men ultimately came to be.
Yeah.
So thanks for that backstory. So she comes from Marvel, She starts as the head of the Fox Kids network.
Gets hired by Fox Kids.
And due to her love for Pride of the X-Men, she goes into those offices and, she pitches them the show along with Batman, the animated series. And Batman gets picked up without a hitch. I think there was a lot of history with Batman from the previous movies as far back as Adam West. But then, she doesn't get the green light for X-Men.
Yeah, so the thing about Pride of the X-Men was, it's only 30 minutes, and it was aired as a spin-off to the Spider-Man TV show.
Okay.
So it starts they're kind of built into that show, and I wish I had the time right now to go back and kind of check out some of this stuff, because I haven't really seen a lot of it, but they're in the X-Men and they're in the Spider-Man and Friends, and get their own spin-off. And in the spin-off episode, it's called The Pride of the X-Men, and they air it.
They have Kitty Pryde as the main character, the main protagonist.
The animation in this, actually, just looking at it, and I didn't get a chance to rewatch the episode, but I saw some stills and things like that from it and some clips. It looks to me maybe even better than it looks in the 90s, and we can get into kind of what happens once they get purchased and they sell their rights to Fox and they're putting the show on.
Well, so you're getting right into it. So they get, she has to champion this work. She puts it on her back, basically, has to put her career on the line. And her boss says, okay, if you're going to put this into production, if you're going to commission this, you got to put your job on the line for it. And she does that. And it's not a great start for X-Men, unfortunately. So they get those first 2 episodes. I mean, it's crazy because they have the audio in one place and the video in another place.
Yeah, so they're sold to a company, Saban, who most people would probably be
Are you saying
familiar.
that right?
Saban?
I know it as Saban. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
I think it's Saban, man.
It's one of those Sabre situations.
You are right, my friend. Story is old as time. So they get sold to Saban.
Saban. I think you were saying it right. I'm sorry.
Saban. So they get sold to Saban, and at this point, most of us are probably more aware of who that is based on the Power Rangers. It's the same company who puts on the Power Rangers. Funny enough, the X-Men is a large impactor on the success of that show coming to be, because her being so successful with these first 2 launches, Batman and X-Men, leads her to have some clout, so to speak, and she pushes for X-Men as well. X-Men, Power Rangers rather. But so they go to Saban. Saban doesn't have the bodies to handle this type of workload, so they outsource, and they outsource to Canada. And they outsource, funny enough, to Korea. Yeah. So
how do you? Hey, Canada's really close to the United States. Korea's not close to the United States at all.
Again, don't know, but this probably has something to do with the animation capability in that place in the world at that time, right?
Sure.
But it is, to your point, kind of crazy because it's not as simple of now you can just share a OneDrive, right? And
we're talking days way before the internet is what it is today.
Yeah, you can just drop something in one place and another person can open it in 2 seconds now, right? Back then, it was probably, if I had to imagine, saved to a floppy disk or something
Some
like that.
people don't even know what that is.
I don't know what it was saved to. I don't know any of that stuff. Please share with me if you know. But it's mailed. I have to imagine it's overnighted, and they get it and they end up making it.
Yeah, it's unreal. So they end up having a couple of issues where the first 2 episodes, which are Night of the Sentinels, end up airing somewhere around Halloween 1992.
Yeah,
and then
it was supposed to come out on Labor Day weekend in 1992. Yeah,
so they had delays pretty much all around.
Right off the bat, they
right
had
off the bat
issues.
And it's about a year, give or take, 6 months to a year before they actually are able to release the 3rd and 4th episodes.
So it was beginning of 1993.
I know there's a weird window there, but
it's beginning of 1993. I think believe it's February, March area. They end up starting the show. They don't even give any heads up. So there's a lot of fanfare when the show initially comes out in that October weekend, right? Gets a lot of publicity, all of that. And then from there, it's not well received. They clean up all those issues and they come back in February. But when they come back in February, they're not promoted at all at that point. They're actually just kind of put out on a Friday night. And
you lose all that high wave that you're riding.
Yeah, and you're coming off of, what the first 2 episodes, we'll get into a detailed thing going forward, but they're good episodes. Yeah. So you'd think they would have wanted to rerun it and just relaunch, but no, they had already invested money, taken up time slots, I assume, and it was just we're behind the 8 ball, let's go with it.
Yeah,
and they hit the ground running.
But they hit the ground running, and it ends up being a huge success, right? They have 5 seasons, 75, 76 episodes, and it's when I look back at it, I didn't quite understand the messages back then, but as we go through these rewatches, this show, man, was for the most part ahead of its time. It was delivering messages, inclusion, diversity. There's a female president when you first get to start it, and it's crazy to me how far ahead of its time it was and how that probably led to a lot of its success.
Yeah, so real quick, we can talk about what they were kind of thinking when they were producing it. Basically, when Margaret Loesch takes over the company, she hires a gentleman. I wish I could remember his name right now, but I can't. She hires him, and he's basically the head of storytelling.
We'll call him Smitty.
Smitty. He's the head of storytelling, and his name is Smitty. And Smitty doesn't know who, he's not the biggest X-Men fan.
So he's not familiar with the characters at all.
Yeah, but he's smart. And he goes out and he hires people that are very familiar with the property.
Sure.
And they come back with a million different stories. And the biggest takeaway they got from all these different stories, and I think some of the information they got from prior to the X-Men, is that don't overload us with characters.
Yeah.
One of the things we really like, and again, we'll get into detail in the first episode, but is the pace that this show starts off with. And they expect you to know the characters, but they don't overwhelm you with the volume of characters, right? They only did that 30-minute episode, and I think they introduced someone like it's like 14 or 15 mutants.
Yeah.
In those,
and they're all
30
soft
minutes.
intros because...
And I'm talking about Pride, even Pride. Like in the new ones, you get maybe those core... Wolverine, who most of you are already going to know when you watch it, the Cyclops is...
you get Storm, Gambit.
Yeah, these guys that have maybe a little bit more lore, and they keep it to that. And you just kind of learn some of the ambience in the world that they're in at that point. And Jubilee's the only person they're really, introducing.
Yeah, we're almost kind of seeing it through Jubilee's eyes in those first couple episodes.
Moments,
we won't jump too deep into that.
So what happens, right, is they determine a couple things. And this ends up being an obstacle they overcome. Because to your point, they become really mature in a way with their content that they're putting out there. But they also have to do that in the tone of a show that's made for kids 10 and under.
Yeah.
And a huge concern at the time wasn't just the content, but it was attention span. Because as we all know, especially people with kids out there, attention spans just go and go and go. And you're going to find this out soon enough, buddy.
Not looking forward to it.
Yeah. She's sitting still these days.
But that's I guess the fun part is when we go back and we rewatch this, we're able to appreciate or understand the value of some of the imagery that we saw. It's nowhere near the animation that we're used to now, right? But it's I still remember some of those story arcs and some of those episodes. I may not have understood the message, but man, did I identify with the characters. And between Wolverine, I look at Colossus, when I look at Gladiator, they had some really awesome characters that maybe you and I didn't really understand the depth of those characters.
Yeah, so on the surface, it's just it's a blue person, it's a guy with claws, it's the lady who can fly,
lady with thunder hands,
lightning hands. But when you watch it through the adult eyes, it's amazing, and it goes back to that 10 and under thing that they were able to fit these messages of inclusion and equality into this show that's geared towards kids, which is obviously a really positive message. That it shouldn't have been a bad thing to put that message out there, but it was wondering if that was going to stick with a kid who was 8 years old. And fortunately for them, the kids love the long-term storytelling.
Yeah.
They end up loving all the characters. And at that point, the show, to your point, goes 5 seasons. And it turns into something that us, as a 30-year-old myself, I can hop into.
I, too, also am 30.
There we go. I didn't know if we were sharing your...
No,
your
it's okay.
age.
I appreciate you being very considerate about, me being 30 and having a kid.
So, we look at it now and we have these different lenses, and I hope a lot of you can look at it with this lens and see how ahead of its time the show is, especially living in the world that we live in today. And it's really exciting,
It's exciting for me. I know it's exciting for you. As we continue to go through these episodes, we're going to come across Easter eggs. We're going to come across hidden storylines. We're going to see characters that are making appearances that we maybe didn't notice on first watch. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to?
A lot of what we've already talked about and uncovering, because a big thing that's really been great for me, and I hope a lot of you can tell, is I've really loved deep diving into this information, and I want to just keep reading more because I find it really fascinating the way the show came to be. But I also understand with nostalgia that it's not always a good thing, and sometimes there's going to be things you don't like. So I think that's the other part to this that I'm really intrigued by is there's got to be something wrong with this show, right?
With all the problems they had, I'm sure.
I know some of them. I've already read some of them, but I look forward to seeing that all kind of unfold. And I'm really looking forward to kind of revisiting my favorite characters a little bit. Maybe, I kind of look back at my childhood and I'm like, you were a typical motherfucker.
How so?
I just liked Wolverine and Gambit. I was like, throw some cards. Like, I like gambling, and like that guy has some sharp, pointy things on his fucking fists, and he's always angry.
Well, Gambit's throwing cards and blowing stuff up, and I feel like Wolverine was a character that they forced you to love.
Well, Wolverine, come to think of it right now in the moment, too, it's like I told you earlier, big fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Sure.
Raphael had the little, blades there, looked like claws, and he was always fucking angry. Maybe there's a common theme there.
The Sigh. I was trying to figure out what it's called.
That's
it's
the name of
Sigh.
it. It's the Sigh.
Yeah.
So that's probably my personal favorite. I can probably take a stab at who your personal favorite is.
Yeah, I mean it's
Morph.
No. I think usually I would go along with you, but no, that's not happening. Morph is probably has the worst laugh of any character, and is probably a ripoff from Mystique. I know that they ripped them off from Changeling from the actual original comics. Absolutely not Morph. But on the flip side, absolutely loved Colossus. Something about a Russian guy who just gets steeled up, gets really strong, and starts picking things up and putting them down. But I was a little bit of a basic bitch, too. I loved Wolverine as a kid. Probably my favorite character.
Matt, did you have like a crush on anybody?
Well, I would say I got a little bit of a crush on Rogue.
She give you a little bit of a Colossus in your pants when you were a little kid?
That's not okay. That is a good joke, you asshole. Yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely.
We all had a little bit of a Colossus.
A little Colossus
for Rogue,
in my.
you know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's very difficult not to, Sugar.
Yeah. Dude.
Sorry, I had to do it.
I thought we kept that fucking off video.
Yeah, well, that's going to be on our Patreon eventually.
Yeah, listen, so this has been really fun. We wanted to kind of just jumpstart this whole thing with kind of a background on where Marvel is, where they were, and kind of what we like and are looking forward to with everything. We appreciate you guys for sticking around. This hasn't been an easy process, but no good things are. So we're really deep diving on all of this stuff and trying to learn as much as we can. I'd love to have you guys take part in this journey, this voyage, this exploration,
this excursion.
Yep, hop on this magic school bus with us, please, and jump in the comments. Let us know if there's anything we missed, if there's any stuff that you can fill in the blanks that maybe I don't know still, and we'll let you know as we're watching these episodes. We're going to be doing 4-episode blocks. We'll let you know before they come when we're going to be doing it and which ones we're going to do, so that you can watch along and kind of be involved in the story with us.
And this is the fun part about that exploration, is we get to get new perspective, see characters through a new lens, but we also get to learn a lot along the way. And we're hoping that you guys can help us out with anything and everything when it comes to education. Share who your favorite characters are, favorite episodes, favorite arcs. We'd love to hear all this information and take this exploration along with us. So that's all we've got. And we look forward to seeing you guys soon. We'll talk to you guys later.
It's been real, everybody.
We're out.